Hello, my name is Diewertje Komen. I am the study coordinator of the study Photography, Film and the Digital, which is part of the School of Art and Design St. Joost. This was a very special and difficult year for our graduates, but I'm very proud that they are here now to show their work. And I'm happy that we can meet each other and meet them at this live stream event. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the live stream of today. Mark Proust will be your moderator. Mark is a visual storyteller, he is a curator and he's very much engaged with young professional photographers. Also we welcome Fleur van Muiswinkel. She is an art historian, a curator and the director of Breda Photo. Fleur is going to tell you a little bit more about Breda Photo as a platform and what it can mean for our students and graduates in the future. Of course, you will meet our graduates Bente de Bruin and Dagmar Paulsen. They will join the conversation together with Mark and Fleur. They will also tell you about their artist in residence they started after graduating. Also, Sean and Ernest, Anne Bergman and Stijn Pruisen will show their work during this live stream. So within our study, it's all about telling stories. Of course, it sounds ambitious to study photography, film and digital media all in one, which is a wide palette, but in the same time, our program is designed to give our students the flexibility to find their own voice and specialize as photographer or film director or media artist. We have our research domain and it's called Framing the Now. And this is the core profile of the study Photography, Film and the Digital. With framing is meant the way in which you can image and frame your stories. And now stands for the degree of relevance and involvement with what is going on in the world. We have divided our research domain in 3 research areas, which are the fact-fiction debate, engagement and ethics, and the network society. Within these research domains we raise questions on which we build out our curriculum, such as how do you determine what is true and what is fake in a world that has degenerated into an incitement bombardment? How do you position yourself in the field of tension between fact and fiction? And what ethical boundaries do you want to cross to make your point as a photographer or filmmaker? What new professional practices are emerging for filmmakers and photographers in our network society? And how do you create your own platform? The question about the platform will be very much present in this online event from existing platforms such as Breda Photo and also in the presentations of our students. If you want to have more information about our study, you can also visit our website stjoost.nl or go to one of our online open day events. When we now look at the extraordinary class of 2020 in this strange year in which they were forced to be extremely flexible, I'm proud that we can look at young professionals who share stories in such a rich diversity of chosen media that is now ready to take the stage. That's it from my side. Thank you for your attention and I really hope you enjoy the show. Hij hoeft pas einde van de week af, Roel.
Oké.
Dat is fijn, hè?
Bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, also on my behalf, welcome to this webinar, specially live from the St. Joost Academy here in Breda. We're going to give special attention to the graduates of the 2020 class of Photography, Film and the Digital. And Diewertje Komen, you just heard her introduce the program and how she sees the role of the education to train and prepare the students for the life as a photographer, as a filmmaker, or being part of the digital community. We have a full program today. We're going to look at the exhibition in a digital format. We're going to discuss some projects from the show. We're going to have a lecture by Fleur van Muiswinkel, the director of Breda Photo, and she's going to introduce the theme. And then we're going to go into the theme and the role of the festival together with her and some recent graduates. We will also show you a few previews, samples of great films that will go online tomorrow as a premiere, but more about that later. To get a clear idea of what we will be talking about today, we're going to show you a short film on the exhibition of the graduates of the students of photography, film and digital. However, it's in Dutch and there are no subtitles. So if you don't speak Dutch, enjoy the visuals and bear with us. But here is the film on the graduation exhibition of the class of 2020.
Ik ben Rachelle van Uden met mijn project Mulat en Familie. Ik ben 24 jaar en ik ben net afgestudeerd van Sint Joost. In het eerste jaar wist ik eigenlijk helemaal niet wat ik wou doen. Ik ben daar eigenlijk een beetje pas in het derde jaar achter gekomen wat ik echt leuk vond om te doen. Dat kwam door een gerichtere opdracht in Tilburg. Wat mij in Tilburg heeft getriggerd is dat ik echt op de individu afging. Dus de echte ik laten zien, zeg maar. Mijn werk gaat over mijn gemixte familie. Ik ben half Surinaams en half Nederlands. En door deze twee gegeven ben ik eigenlijk achtergekomen dat niet iedereen in mijn familie hetzelfde tegen bepaalde situaties aankijkt zoals ik het doe. En daardoor kwam ik eigenlijk erachter dat niet iedereen begrip heeft voor elkaar. Dus wat ik eigenlijk met dit project probeer te realiseren is dat mensen gewoon met elkaar moeten praten. Niet alleen over de simpele dingen, maar ook echt dieper op elkaar ingaan. Waar ik mezelf na de expositie zie is hopelijk op meerdere exposities. Ik ben erg blij met hoe het er nu uitziet. En ik ben nog steeds bezig met het maken van het boek. Dus ik hoop daar aankomend jaar mee bezig te zijn en een goed afproduct te hebben.
Mijn naam is Benjamin van der Hoek en ik ben bezig met mijn afstudeerdocumentaire die nog in ontwikkeling is, 2 keer zo groot. Mijn film gaat over de vader-zoon relatie. Ik ben zelf mijn vader verloren toen ik 10 jaar was. En vanaf dat moment heb ik altijd het idee gehad dat ik misschien iets mis. En ik was heel benieuwd naar hoe een vader-zoon relatie zich ontwikkelt vanaf het moment dat je eigenlijk volwassen bent. En altijd als ik andere vaders en zoons zag, dan was ik ook wel heel benieuwd hoe dat zat. Ik was er altijd heel erg door geïntrigeerd, meer dan als ik naar moeders keek en hun kinderen. En ik wist, ik moet op een bepaald punt moet ik met dit thema wel iets gaan doen of zo. Dat ben ik mezelf verplicht. Wat ik heel fijn vind van Sint Joost was dat je in je eerste jaar heel erg dicht bij jezelf komt. Dus er wordt al een soort van kunstzinnigheid van je verwacht. Maar eigenlijk ga je in je eerste jaar heel erg onderzoeken wat jou drijft en waar jouw interesses liggen en hoe je naar jezelf reflecteert en naar de wereld om je heen. Dus ik denk dat ik in die zin Sint Joost heel goed heb kunnen gebruiken om de dingen die mij fascineren of de dingen die in mijn geschiedenis belangrijk zijn geweest een plek te kunnen geven en te kunnen vertalen naar in dit geval film. Een belangrijk thema is ook vergankelijkheid, dus ik denk dat ik de vaders en zoons die ik nu heb gefilmd eigenlijk nog veel langer wil blijven volgen. Als de zoons op een gegeven moment zelf vader worden, dan creëer je een nieuwe laag. En ik wil zeker nog wel 20 jaar in deze film blijven werken om die volgende stappen ook in hun relatie te zien. Zodat je echt daadwerkelijk een soort van groei ziet in hoe zij samen zijn. Ik denk dat ik heel graag wel hele persoonlijke, of in ieder geval intieme documentaires wil blijven maken. Wat ik heel erg merk aan mijn omgeving is dat de vader-zoon relatie vaak wat onbesproken blijft. En dat vaders en zoons soms wel een hele speciale band hebben, maar dat niet zo snel naar elkaar uitspreken. Ik wil ze wel een soort van inzicht laten zien van wat je met je vader hebt of wat je met je zoon hebt. Dat is best bijzonder. Daar mag je best wel bewust van zijn dat dat een unieke band is die jullie samen hebben. Ja, dat de bijzonderheid van die band best wel, die mag er best zijn. Dat hoeft niet onder een stoel of bank geschoven te worden.
Mijn naam is Anne Bergman, ik ben Bente, ik ben 23 en ik ben net afgestudeerd aan de studie fotografie, film en de digital. Toen ik op de academie kwam wist ik nog niet zo goed wat ik was, een filmmaker, een fotograaf. En nu ik ben afgestudeerd kan ik wel echt zeggen dat ik een fotograaf ben. De opleiding richt zich eigenlijk met name op film en fotografie, maar ook alles daartussenin. En ik heb me de afgelopen 4 jaar met name gericht op technologie. en programmeren. How to Build a Mountain is een fotografisch onderzoek naar hoe ons beeld van het berglandschap is veranderd door fotografische technieken en andere nieuwe technieken. En daaruit is een boek gekomen en deze installatie. Ja, met mijn werk bevraag ik eigenlijk wat het betekent als algoritmes subjectief worden. Nou ja, de fascinaties voor algoritmes en technologie komt eigenlijk gewoon van het feit dat ik en iedereen elke dag telefoon gebruikt en een computer en social media. Maar dat ik eigenlijk geen idee heb wat zich daar binnen in zo'n telefoon afspeelt. Dus toen ben ik me eigenlijk gaan verdiepen in programmeren. De wereld om me heen die toch steeds technologischer wordt, gewoon beter te begrijpen eigenlijk. Het onderzoek is ontstaan uit mijn eigen fascinatie voor het berglandschap. En de daarbij komende idee van het sublieme. Dat sublieme kon ik zelf als fotograaf alleen ervaren in de bergen en niet vastleggen. En vanuit die ervaring ben ik gaan onderzoeken hoe dat sublieme gevoel, hoe dat berglandschap wel in zijn puurheid vast te leggen valt en of dat ooit gekund heeft. Ik begon dit onderzoek eigenlijk met de vraag of ik een algoritme zou kunnen schrijven wat nieuwe kunstwerken zou produceren. En voor het maken van dit algoritme heb ik heel veel data gebruikt over kunstwerken van het Tate Modern en andere grote kunstmusea. En tijdens dit onderzoek kwam ik er eigenlijk achter hoe subjectief deze data was. Dus deze data stond vol met termen als humoristisch, banaal, liefdevol om een kunstwerk te beschrijven. En dit vond ik interessant omdat deze termen eigenlijk voor iedereen iets anders betekenen. Dus toen ging ik me afvragen, wat betekent het als een algoritme gaat oordelen over dit soort subjectieve termen? Vanuit het beginsel is het wel de natuur die me trekt. Maar het aspect van tijd wat zich in de bergen afspeelt of in het landschap als ik daar ben, vind ik heel erg interessant om mee verder te gaan. Omdat we nu in een samenleving leven waar alles super snel gaat. Maar als ik daar zo ben, gaat alles juist super langzaam en is het eigenlijk de snelheid van je eigen voeten die je moet volgen en niet die van de stad. Algoritmes die werken met en leren van data en deze data is gegenereerd door mensen. Dus de beslissingen die algoritmes nemen zijn niet objectief, maar net zo subjectief als de beslissingen die wij mensen nemen.
Hoi, ik ben Pien. Ik heb de film Beter in Duif gemaakt, die hier ook op de expo speelt. Mijn film gaat over Albert en Alberts vrouw is plots in een duif veranderd. En hij was er ook niet op voorbereid, dus daarom loopt hij tegen allerlei problemen aan. En die probeert hij heel enthousiast op te lossen met fantasie en hele slimme oplossingen. Ja, ik fotografeerde heel veel duiven en ik vond het hele interessante beestjes omdat ze nergens aan lijken te denken en van broodkruimel naar broodkruimel leven eigenlijk. En dat hele absurde gegeven vond ik heel interessant om te gebruiken in een film. Eigenlijk is het heel organisch gegaan. Op den duur dacht ik, wow, wat als iemand die je kent opeens in een duif verandert? En toen heb ik daar een film over gemaakt. Ik probeer een hele kinderlijke nieuwsgierigheid te behouden, want daarmee zorg ik er eigenlijk voor dat ik heel fantasierijk kan blijven werken. Ik vind het heel belangrijk om een beetje als een ontdekker te werk te gaan en mezelf te verrassen daarmee. Ik hoor heel vaak dat het dan een pienig werk is, omdat mensen mij erin herkennen, omdat het een beetje gek is en kleurrijk. En ja, dat is de rode draad, denk ik. Dat is soms anders dan de vaste structuren die er al staan, zeg maar. Dus daarom kan het soms een beetje gek worden. Maar ik wil mezelf die vrijheid geven om gek te denken. En dat kan.
Mijn naam is Britt van der Boogaard. Ik ben maker van immersieve installaties. Het zijn een soort van zelfgemaakte instrumenten waarbij verschillende zintuigen proberen naar elkaar toe te trekken. Ik heb een transmachine ben ik aan het ontwikkelen en daarmee probeer ik dus mensen in een trance te brengen. En het is ook een soort onderzoek in wat trance is en waarom ik daar altijd heel erg naar verlang. Dat is omdat ik het heel moeilijk vind om prikkels te filteren. Bij mij zijn alle prikkels komen altijd allemaal even hard binnen, zeg maar. Door middel van het instrument wat ik maak probeer ik die zintuigen weer naar elkaar toe te trekken, zodat ik daar een soort van rust in kan krijgen om het toch te kunnen waarnemen in plaats van in mijn eigen hoofd te keren. Mijn vervolgstappen zijn, ik wil sowieso eerst een tussenjaar nemen om te kijken of ik vanuit mezelf iets kan opzetten en ik zou het heel tof vinden om hiermee podiums te bereiken. Daarnaast wil ik ook kijken of het ergens toegepast kan worden, dus dat het iets ook kan betekenen voor de maatschappij. Wat ik eigenlijk ook een beetje met mijn werk wil overbrengen is dat we heel erg in een maatschappij leven, vooral in Nederland, dat alles heel erg gerationaliseerd moet worden. En dat alles een vakje moet hebben en alles een betekenis moet hebben. En dat een beetje ons gevoel en ons gebruik van onze zintuigen een beetje begint te verdwijnen. En met mijn werk probeer ik dat zintuigelijke ervaring en het voelen en het emotie weer terug te brengen eigenlijk.
Ik ben Stijn Pruijsen van het Sint-Joost. Ik ben afgelopen jaar afgestudeerd met mijn filmische ervaring Akasha. Ja, in Akasha word je eigenlijk meegenomen in de huid van een jongen die ayahuasca doet. Dat is een drankje uit Zuid-Amerika, waardoor je eigenlijk een soort innerlijke reis maakt. Je kunt het eigenlijk vergelijken met een soort van wakker dromen, waarin je eigenlijk naar trauma's teruggaat. En in de installatie word je echt meegenomen op die reis, waardoor je het eigenlijk een soort van zelf ervaart. Ik heb besloten om Akasha te maken omdat sommige ervaringen niet in woorden uit te drukken zijn. Ik heb zelf met ayahuasca een hele heftige, bijna doodservaring gehad die ik heel graag wilde delen met mensen. En woorden die schoten altijd tekort om mensen ook maar iets te kunnen laten proeven van wat dat voor mij heeft betekend of wat ik heb ervaren. Ik wil heel graag de installatie laten rondreizen, veel mensen het laten ervaren, maar vooral ook echt in gesprek gaan met mensen over wat ze hebben ervaren. En de gehele film is point of view en dat is iets waar ik super erg gefascineerd door ben. Dus ik zie mezelf eigenlijk de komende jaren nog echt wel bezig zijn met de subjectieve waarneming van de mens, laat ik het zo maar zeggen. En de manier waarop eigenlijk ieder individu de realiteit ziet. Want zelfs terwijl jij nu naar mij kijkt, zie jij de realiteit vanuit jouw ogen. Net zoals dat ik dat op mijn manier zo ziet. En ik wil eigenlijk steeds meer mensen bewust maken van de manier waarop zij eigenlijk de wereld waarnemen door middel van de zintuigen.
The exhibition was on show for 4 days only and closed last Sunday. So it's great to have this film as a document of that exciting project. Let's discuss a bit more about the exhibition and how it feels to exhibit in Corona times with a few participating photographers, Shannon Ernest and Stijn Pruijsen, here with us at the table in the studio. Stijn, Anna,
yes.
Shannon, welcome.
Thank you.
Stijn, congratulations on your exhibition.
Thank you.
How did it all go from your perspective? I mean, how much influence did all the Corona measures actually have on your experience of having an actual show?
Well, I had a first plan of showing the work in a sort of a panorama screen, but due to Corona, it was not possible to place a lot of people in front of that.
Right.
So I made 3 little cabins. And I think that worked way better for my work because people experienced it as an individual. And so I think they are placed in black boxes with a screen and they were sitting on comfortable chairs on the ground and they are really sucked into the experience that I made. So it only worked better for people that they are watching it alone in a black box.
So the limitation was actually better for the show.
It really
for the
created
experience.
something new.
Wow.
So I was really happy with that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Shannon, congrats to you too. Your work is a project about a small village here in the province of Brabant. Can you explain a little bit what your project is about?
Well, it is a study into the online landscape, and I asked myself the question if I could do a study, a research on a town using only materials that they posted online themselves.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to create a document that was realistic and showed a really documentary feel to it and showed the everyday life of this town that is actually, I know, a bit, haunted by negativity and criminality and stigmas, and I wondered if I could just show the true heart of Sint-Willebroord.
The true heart,
Yes.
right. By looking at what the inhabitants post themselves on social media.
Yes, I believe the online presence and our visibility is really great, and people post a lot of things, they share a lot of things online, and I wondered if I could use that and create a more true to heart view of the town. Yes.
And do you feel you accomplished that?
In a way, yes, because I did receive a lot of positive reactions. There were also some people that believe that I kind of missed the point. So that's really interesting now to have like a dialogue with the subject that my project is about, and to create an even more in-depth research into that.
And because your project is essentially a website,
Yes.
How did you make that transformation from something that's completely online and that comes from online into a physical experience, into an exhibition?
Well, the website was really the main focus of the exhibition still, so the website was what I wanted people to see, but I did have a really big photo of like the Fuckboy Fade work that I did to get people's attention and get them over there.
Right, right.
Because I feel it's a really strong piece, so yes.
So you just took the one thing that made the biggest impact,
Yes.
and kind of blew that up.
Yeah.
Interesting. Stijn, your project, Akasha, An Inner Journey, is very much as you already said, it's an experience. And it worked better because you had those black boxes.
Yeah.
But did you achieve what you hoped to achieve with the visitors?
I think I achieved more than I hoped for, because I really had a vision in mind in which people would step into the skin of the main character. And I was at the exhibition to help everybody that came out, and it was really like everybody who opened the curtains were really like, whoa, out of balance, really looking around, what do I have to do now? And then I was there to talk with them, and a lot of people had a really weird sense of time. They didn't know what kind of time passed while they were in the experience, and everybody reacted really physically. So they were really experiencing that they were in the skin of the lead character, and they really experienced a journey themselves. I didn't realize that it really worked as I wanted to.
What had you hoped initially? I mean, setting it up the way you did.
Well, I hope that people would be more aware of being in their body and being in their own point of view. And also...
but instead they entered into somebody else's body.
Well, that was my vision at first also, but I didn't thought that I would achieve it so strongly. Because of the point of view camera, you really feel like you are in his body, but I didn't thought that it would work so strong that people really came out shaking or crying.
Wow.
Or so the physical and emotional reactions of people were way above what I expected it to be.
And how do you want to do this again? Do you want to use this form or format of showing your work or your vision?
Yeah, I'm really interested in cinematic experience. It's something that is quite new to the film world, and I'm really interested in how film can contribute in the evolution of how we perceive reality. So I really want to develop further work in point of view and in that cinematic experience, and maybe in VR, but I don't know yet.
That's the next step.
Yeah, maybe.
Right.
It is.
Shannon, your work is not so much an experience. It's very much let's say, it's almost a cool document of Sint-Willebroord, this small town. What do you hope to achieve with the viewers? Because you are looking for something, but what should the viewer who's not from Sint-Willebroord, who doesn't know this place, what do you hope to trigger with the viewer?
Well, a sense of how you, how do you say it? I believe a sense of how you are online, like
how your online presence reflects on another audience.
Exactly.
So you want people to actually reflect on their own online behavior, let's say.
Yeah, let's say that indeed. I think it's really important that you know that there's this vast world out there that's online, and everything you put out there is forever out there. I think that's the most important giveaway. Besides that, I also want to, I don't know, maybe entertain, because I do believe that some of the images, some of the videos that I created, well, they show the everyday, and I think the everyday is beautiful and sometimes even funny, and I think that's very important to me. And
so that experience is something that you share with Stijn also, that you want to give that experience to the viewer? You want people to be able to live in that space, or is that not where you want to take it?
Yeah, I really want to show it like a subculture, and just have people get acquainted with that subculture. That's mostly what I wanted to do.
Maybe just not as immersive as I do, but maybe...
No, exactly. In a different way.
Yeah.
Of course, in a completely different way. How important is it for you, for both of you, to have a physical exhibition? Do you think that it's a crucial element in the career where you are right now? Shaina?
Well, for me, it adds, I mean, the website is the most important part, and that's something that I can, share with other people very easily. But to have a physical experience is also great, because you get to talk with a lot of people in a more direct sense, and that just, is for networking sense is so much better. Besides that, I think a lot of images work better when they're blown up to like a monumental size, and then
when it's more physical,
just speaks more to you.
Right.
So that's really important in that way.
Yeah, for you, Stijn?
Well, people could reproduce my art installation at home, but I think the experience will always be different, because you can put the movie on the screen, and you can put headphones in and make the room dark, but you can never build that small black box in which you sit at the same height as the main character. So the experience will always be different, although I think it could be reproduced to a certain level. Right.
So an exhibition is important to meet people, but also to show it in exactly the way that you want to show the work. Yeah, sure. And a lot of people will watch it on their phones, and they won't have the experience that I wanted them to have. And it will only be a little video on your phone. All right, cool. Thank you very much, Shannon and Stijn. And let's move to our next guest, also a graduate from this school. She joins us on stage to discuss her project, How to Build a Mountain. There's no audience, so there's no round of applause, but welcome, Anne Bergman.
Thank you.
Anne, you did very different from the other two students. You created a book, a very physical object to show your work. How did you translate the book into an exhibition format?
The book is really almost scientific approach to the subject. In the exhibition, I tried to make a mountain myself.
How do you make a mountain?
That's still a question. The title stands for how I or me as a photographer, or how scientists approach mountains completely in different ways, but how we as people, humans, try to get a grip on mountains, and in the specific, the sublime feeling. And in the research, I found out for myself that it's actually not possible for us as humans to reproduce the sublime feeling.
Okay, but are you trying to reproduce the sublime in your book, or is it a research into the possibilities?
It's more a research into the possibilities. You follow the path of a scientist who tries to do that himself or herself.
And so it's your conclusion that it's actually not possible to recreate the sublime, or?
Yes, for now that's my conclusion.
Is that something that you want to continue? I mean, is there something that you will continue to look for?
Yes, I really do think that this is just the start of a new project. Almost 2 years I'm working on this,
and it still has a lot of open endings that I can go further with. But I think in this book, the mountain is really the main character. And I want to look further in how we as people experience and how we handle the mountain.
Right. And is the mountain the only way that you can experience the sublime, or are there other ways, or is that something that's part of your research?
There
as well?
are other ways, but for me it's really focused on the mountains, because that's where for my own intentions, for my own experiences with the mountains, it's really an important part for me in my life. So
that's really interesting. I mean, you're from the Netherlands and we don't actually have mountains.
Yes.
Where does this fascination or motivate, where does it come from?
It really came from my parents, actually. They always took me to the mountains, and I always experienced something beautiful or dangerous. And I tried to, since a young age, I photographed, but I never captured what I experienced there. So that's where this project came out.
But you already, it's interesting that you kind of already know that it is not possible to recreate that sublime, but you still keep searching for it.
Yes, yes.
Isn't that I would maybe even frustrating for yourself, that you know, or is it what motivates you to continue that search?
It's not, it's a search, so it's not, I already know I can do this myself, but maybe new techniques can do this. I work together with Bente at the central station, and maybe in the future algorithms can build mountains. And
we'll look at that project later on in this program.
That's a new way, and then us people is a part of in there, but it's a completely digital system that will make it. But it's not for me to build a mountain or to create that sublime into the real sublime feeling, because that's also very subjective.
So it's maybe more in the journey than in the actual outcome.
Yes, it's really a journey. Also in the book, it's really a journey you go through.
All right, beautiful. Thank you very much. Check out that book, How to Build a Mountain by Anne Bergman. Now let's look at two teasers of two films made by St. Jost graduates. The first one is called The Travelers, and it's a documentary portrait of a lower-class traditional family. A family of former travelers who have now settled in what they call themselves a civic home. A film by Eline van der Ka. The other is titled Better a Pigeon, or in Dutch, Beter een Duif, about the human need to fix things. A film by Pien Vroonland. Let's have a look.
On the long hot summer evening, I went out to get fresh air, walking round the crowded gardens. I was
Both films, together with the other film productions of the graduates, will premiere online tomorrow. From 1 p.m. onwards, there's a program and you can watch all these amazing productions from the comfort of your own chair at nowshow.nl. 9 different film productions will be shown, and after each 3 films, moderator Mo Lakja will have a Q&A with the makers. Make sure not to miss this special event at nowshow.nl tomorrow 1 p.m. CET. And let's move now to our next guest, present here also in the studio. Trained in art history and curating at universities in Amsterdam and London. Former artistic coordinator of the Contour Biennale in Mechelen, Belgium, she is the first director of the Breda Photo Festival. Here to introduce this year's theme, The Best of Times, The Worst of Times, a warm welcome, Fleur van Muiswinkel.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for having me. Thank you, Sint-Joost. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's an honor to be the first director of Breda Photo. We had prepared a PowerPoint presentation. We're just trying to get it in vision for you at home as well. But in the meantime, I'll just start talking about the best of times, the worst of times. Hey, there it is. That's great. Here you see the title of this year's biennial. It's the 9th edition of Breda Photo. And I'm very pleased to introduce it and to be able to actually show it to you, because it was a question whether or not we were able to continue. Maybe we can go to the next slide. That would be great. Thank you. Here it is. Breda Photo 2020, we had to decide throughout the time of April, May, to continue to work with different scenarios and see whether or not we could actually host Breda Photo 2020. The mid-May, we decided to go for a new hybrid model, which I will explain further on, but first I will dive into the next slide, which explains the thematics or shows you the thematics. The theme was set in 2019, so last year already. Not knowing, not having any idea about what was going to be ahead of us, the best of times, the worst of times seemed more spot on than we could have imagined. The best of times, the worst of times is set by our curator Geert van Eyck, and it leads to thank you everybody. It leads to the team of curators to work within the team for the year after the thematic set. So in 2019, throughout that period, the curator starts doing political or their research. Let me just get into line with my cues here. Thank you very much. We're now all set, and I can continue. Thank you. So within the thematics, the curators, they research photographers and series that dive into sort of parts of the thematics. They create a framework for themselves to make the selection. And they decided to work within the following 4 domains, which is politics, economics, and the social. So here you are, and you see the work of one of our Chinese participants. Before I show you more of the selection of series and photographers, I will tell you a bit about the initial setup of Breda Photo 2020 before we decided to go to the hybrid model. So as you can see, there were several elements which always reoccur within the Breda Photo Festival already since the beginning of the Breda Photo Festival in 2003. So you have indoor and outdoor exhibitions. Those are actually the main framework and the parts of what Breda Photo is well known about are the physical exhibitions. Then we work together with our associate curators and our guest curators, and they help the team of curators internally to set and select different. We have our international talent program. Our international talent program is especially developed to also have young talent, to find young talent on a European scope. So we work together with 10 European art academies, amongst others the Sint-Joost, of course, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So it's a great program that lasts for, say, around a year, and the students also work within the thematics that is set by our curators. Maybe Mark and I will talk a little bit more about the international program after my presentation. That would be nice to show what are the options for young talent within Breda Photo. There's a whole programmation of side projects that we always curate. Well, who is now actually responsible? Who's doing what in Breda Photo? Because To go from the setup that you saw just now to the new hybrid format, we have a whole team that is stepping in and that we really need to change into the new direction, into the hybrid form. So just to introduce you shortly, there you see my name, Fleur van Meijswinkel. I'm the director, only recently, since 1st of April. Theo Andriessen is our business director. Then you have Geert van Eyck, our curator, and who's responsible for setting the thematics. Reinoud van den Berg, also curator. Jan Schaarlaker, very important person also, because he's the art director. So he's responsible for the form and the way the works are presented. So he has quite a big impact on what the actual visitor will see. He's also responsible for education and the production. Ditte Ooms, she's responsible for communication. Big Smeets is our back office and hospitality manager. And then you have Lisa, our very nice intern this year. Guest curators we work with, and associate curators. Our associate curators are appointed for 2 years. It's Azun Nambugu and Mohamed Somji. And our guest curators are, for this edition, Ruben Lundgren and Hie Ning and Jan Hoek. Well, there we go. What has happened and what has changed? So, to quickly go through it, we have 55 photographers from 20 countries, and they show within the following elements of the program, which is the general programmation, China Imagined, a specific curated show in de Grote Kerk bij Hie Ning en Ruben Lundgren. And then you have Power to the Models by Jan Hoek. I will tell you more about that later. I'm talking a lot, but I'll quickly tell you what has happened this year. So Corona appeared, and then we went through different scenarios. We decided that we really wanted to try to let Breda Photo happen, and we are very glad. As you can see still today, the festival was able to open their doors to the general public. Although we had to change quite a bit and we had to go to a different format. We decided to keep the physical exhibitions, as you could just hear with Anna and I forgot his name. Mark, help me out. Who was Stijn? Thank you. The importance of actually having a physical interaction with a photograph and a series is so essential for the public, but also for the photographers. So we really wanted to make sure that these exhibitions could happen. To also be able to host and to reach out to our national public, because we weren't sure if they could travel to Breda, we created a printed part of the exhibition, and that was part of a newspaper inlay. And in that way, we reached out to 290,000 Dutch inhabitants, which we were really happy to reach out to. To be able to also present Breda Photo 2020, the best of times, the worst of times, to our online or international public, we created this online platform, which consists out of a whole bunch of artist talk shows, webinars, broadcasting as today, etc., etc. So those 3 legs were the new format of the festival. We have several locations. I'll quickly run through that. The former KPN-gebouw, it's the former telecom building here in the center of Breda Breda. You have the Chassé Park, XXL Promenade, the big church, Stedelijk Museum Breda, with whom we co-produced the show of Jan Hoek. Then you have Club Solo and Pier 15. I'll quickly shortly introduce you the different shows. Our guest curator, Jan Hoek, curated the show Power to the Models. And you can see them, the show in Stedelijk Museum Breda. It's quite interesting because within the framework of the best of times, the worst of times, he wanted to research the power relationships between photographers and models. And he completely changed it around and created the freedom for the model to actually decide everything, instead of what he says often the photographer is deciding how a model or how a thematics is shown, and he changed it all around and really gave all the power to the models themselves. which has resulted in a very fascinating and very diverse group exhibition, which I definitely recommend you to go and see. In Club Solo, they are a partner of Breda Photo already for many years and for many editions, and they always select their own artist, most of the time somebody who comes from visual arts background. And this year it's Marjolein Dijkman, a Dutch artist living in Brussels, Belgium. And with this show, Solo 27, she researches how do we as human species relate to the world and the universe around us. So completely spot on within the thematics, the best of times, the worst of times, constantly searching for what is this best of times and what is this worst of times? How do we relate to it? In the Grote Kerk, you have the exhibition of Hie Ning and Ruben Lundgren called China Imagined. They selected approximately 25 artists to show the other side of China, or a way of looking at the Chinese society, which within China itself, they can't present to the public. It will be censored. So it's a very important exhibition for us, but also for the curators and of course for the photographers themselves to be able to show it in the Netherlands in such a big scale for such a wide audience. It's fantastic to see, for example, the work of Pixie Liao called Experimental Relationships, in which she researches the relationships between a woman and a man. She fell in love with a younger man, whereas within the Chinese society, you're sort of expected to fall for an older man as a woman. Well, it's a visual exploration of how relationships actually can be, and it's a fascination to see all the different works that she created with it within her visual story. Then we have the work of Kurt Chong, Combining for Eyes and Jade. And I was fascinated by this work because he is researching the life of his former nanny, Mak. And she was, as they called it, a woman who was a calm sister. And these calm sisters are, they have a place within society that they take care. They are nannies within families. They completely let go of their own family life. They are women who live on their own, but completely dedicate their life to the life of the family they work for. And she worked for over 55 years with Kurt Chong's family. So you can imagine that when he was raised, that she became a very important person for him. Here in this image, you can see in the middle one of the objects that she owns. It is in such an extreme way that she let go of her own life that she also doesn't own many objects. And the film that Kurt Chong shows in the exhibition is fascinating because it shows a way of being and standing in society, which is, for me, mind-blowing. I was really taken by the work. The work by Adrian Wahid, you see the man with the mask around his, the scarf around his face and the snake. It was our campaign image, not knowing, of course, that a face mask or a mouth mask would be so prominent now and part of our daily life. But that was, of course, not the reason why she made this picture. What she shows in her series Black Joy in Resistance is what she tries to do, Adrian Wahid, the New York-based photographer, is to create a nuance to the stereotypical image of Black people in America, but mainly also more and wider globally, because they are often portrayed as victims, whereas she says, we're all human beings, we can celebrate, we can have pleasure, we're equal. And that is actually what she tries to show also in her series, and I think that's a very important statement, and I think we should always try and reach out to that equality. A young photographer that we also show is Mohamed Kalito, Among You. Again, a photographer who tries to show dilemmas that might not be so known in the Netherlands or outside of the local part where he lives. So he lives in, I think it was Marrakesh. Sorry if that's wrong, but I think it was Marrakesh. And what he is showing in his diptychs, he shows a portrait of a young Moroccan person who is really, sort of setting off against the traditional and controversial or conservative way of being, and they all are really looking for their own identity and their how to relate to a more modern way of being instead of having to adjust to the traditional and the conservative way which their parents or their society is in. The last thing that I wanted to show, because I think, Mark, I'm nearly out of time.
You're almost out of time.
I'm almost out of time. Okay, so I run through it. Thank you. Klaus Tiemann and Simon Norfolk. Climate change, climate impact is so important these days. Therefore, it's of course also part of the best of times, the worst of times 2020. And what you see here is a way of documenting how do you say that? It's an attempt of the local Swiss community to stop the glacier of melting. They put isolation blankets over the Rhône glacier, trying to slow it down of melting. Unfortunately, it didn't happen. But what I find very interesting in Simon's work and Klaus is the theatrical and autonomous way of addressing this climate change and this attempt of the local society. I think it's fantastic. I want to close off, because I don't have time enough, I think here with Todd Darling, an artist who lives in Hong Kong. And as we all know, there's a lot of political unrest there. And again, coming from this idea of the best of times, the worst of times, the curators knew his work and thought like, okay, this is somebody we really want to offer a platform within Breda. Todd Darling is working together with hip-hop artists and activists who he portrays on the spot in Hong Kong, and then he asks them to write new texts, not write new songs that show their frustration, but also their expectations of the future. What is it that they hope that will happen? How do they deal with the injustice in society that they experience every day? Well, a lot, as you can see, a lot of examples of the best of times, the worst of times, and ways of approaching this thematics through different series, different ages. All these artists that I just addressed are different in age, globally spread, and I think that's one of the beautiful things of Breda Photo 2020, and also what I hope that we continue for 2022.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Fleur. Wow. a lot of information, a lot of great projects, and obviously it'd be great if you have the opportunity to go and see the festival and interact with all these amazing exhibitions.
Yeah.
We are now joined online by two recent graduates of the St. Joost Academy, Bente de Bruin and Dagmar Pauwelse. Bente, your project is about algorithms. You try to show that they are as subjective as the human mind. And Dagmar, your project is about Taoism and how it can be relevant in today's world. And I'm sorry I really narrow your projects down to that extent. But having heard Fleur's presentation, what's your reaction? Do you feel that indeed it is a photographer's job or role to comment on society and what happens in the world today?
Well, I think in some way it's quite what we're being taught. So we're being schooled as visual storytellers and as critical thinkers. So I think any work that you make as a photographer and somehow reflects on the society we live in today. So I think it's yes, in short.
Okay, and Bente, how does that work for you? Do you also feel that it's crucial that your work directly reflect social issues, or do you feel that you have a personal, more autonomous role to play as well?
Sorry, I totally missed the question because my laptop suddenly fell out.
Okay.
It's very typical for someone.
My question was, do you think that it's really important for artists or artworks to respond to society, to issues that happen in society?
Well, in some ways, yes, but I don't think they play the same role in society as journalists, actually. Yeah.
So what's the difference between a journalist and an artist from that point of view?
Well, I think a journalist is more of a researcher, and journalists do kind of have the task to check on society or make articles about things that happen in society and check the government, for example. And I think they have that role, but I don't think artists do necessarily have that role, but some artists do. Yeah, I don't know.
And how do you see that for yourself? Do you think you have that? Do you want to play that role as an artist?
Well, I think my work does, but it's not my first inspiration or something. I'm kind of curious. So I don't start from, oh, this happens in society, I want to make something about it, I want to do something about it. But it's more starting from curiosity, I think. But yeah, I think it goes hand in hand because my work automatically addresses things that are happening, but they don't advocate change immediately.
Right. Dagmar, to go somewhere else, I mean, this program is also part of Breda Photo. How relevant do you think festivals are for you as a practitioner, as a photographer?
As a photographer, I think it's quite necessary. For example, she just told us about the China part in Breda Photo, and that it can be shown here, but not, for example, in China itself. So we can become more aware of the situation there, and they can have a place where they can out themselves the way they want to out themselves. So in a social way, I think it's important that festivals are there in that part.
And for you personally, is how important do you think a festival could be for you as a photographer?
Well, I think festivals to go deeper into work, so deeper into the points that artists are trying to make with their work, however small or big they may be. I think it's very nice that there are a lot of people that come and see the work and get deeper into the thematics of it.
Right.
So I think in that way it's really important.
Okay. And Fleur, how important is it for you as a festival to show young talent or new upcoming photographers?
Very important. I think that's one of our, that's part of what we are. When you look at the photography world and what the role of a festival is to also show young photographers that we, as the curatorial team, think are have a potential or bring a story that should be told. So you have a sort of navigating role in that sense within the whole framework of institutions and networks and everything around it. Like, where can young people show? And I think for us as Breda Photo, it's from it's always been an important thing because we are also looking at the photographers that will bring forward and that we stories that we as older, if you can talk about older people, like young people do look different at the world. And I think in that way, it's very important to also offer them a platform to tell their stories.
Do you take it into account whether a photographer is of a younger generation or a recent graduate? Is that a criteria by which to judge the story?
No. Well, in that sense that, of course, part of the work that we show from young talent is coming through the International Talent Program. So it's a fact already. It's a definite start of how the selection process starts. But when you look at how the projects are selected from the big vast amount of projects that all the students, which are 300 in the beginning, we start with 300 students. So in the end, we really look at, okay, what's the content of the work? How is it presented? But also our young artists often have a way of, or a wish of how to show their work. And then we look at that also, because that's part of the pitch that they have to do. And then we see like, okay, how can we integrate it in the festival and maybe even lift it a little bit?
Right, make it even better.
Make it even better, or offer them a platform, as Anna was saying, like show something really big.
Right.
Which is, I think, something that we as a festival can offer that is different than when you do your graduation show or you work in a project space. And especially the confrontation that you have with a big audience is something that we really like to share with younger artists, because it's a moment for them to learn also.
Something new.
Yeah.
And Dagmar and Bente, what I mean, you studied in Breda. The festival is also in Breda. Do you have particular expectations from a platform such as Breda Photo for you personally?
For me personally, not really, because they have a really strong focus on photography, and my work, I wouldn't describe it as photography at all, actually. I sometimes use a camera, but there it stops.
Right.
But yeah, I look at other platforms, and I think they can play an important role in talent development of young artists, yeah.
And how does it work for you, Dagmar?
I think it's, how do I say it? I think it's important that it's there, but sometimes need a little bit more time and process to give young makers also the time to reflect afterwards. So they have the platform and they've been there and they've shown the work, the conversation has started. And then they need some time off, I think, to reflect on what is being said and develop the projects and develop their own craftsmanship. They call it that.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Can I just tip into that? Because I really think you're right, Bente, what you say about that Breda Photo has a focus on photography, which is irrelevant, or like that's how we started. But what we will do is to always, or what we at least try, is to challenge ourselves also to look to the boundaries of what photography and especially what visual storytelling can mean nowadays. Like, what does it entail? How can you extend the idea of visual storytelling also to open up to different media? But you're absolutely right in the way that so far Breda Photo framed it really coming from the medium of photography as the majority of works that we present. And I can tell you for the future that we will look more also towards the boundaries. We will never let go of photography, because that's what we are here for. But we are also looking to extend this idea of visual storytelling and open up to different media, as we already are doing with some video. But even there you can look differently at visual storytelling and open up a bit more to different media. So it's interesting that you say that, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it suits our time, our current time we're
Absolutely.
in. Also, our education, the name only changed this year to photo, film, and the digital, and I think it's a very good example of the time we're in. Photography isn't just using a camera and print as a medium, but we're redefining the boundaries of what photography is. So I think it's interesting if Breda Photo is keeping up with these developments as well.
Yeah, no, I totally agree, especially that question of like how to integrate the digital platform and how to present the stories that we've selected online was already a challenge that due to the changes that we had to do by Corona, or that we chose to do. We already made that first step into like looking into the options and possibilities of digital and showing visual stories online. But it's a challenge. So I hope that in the future that younger generation artists will team up with us, also with our curatorial team, and see like, okay, how can we extend this notion of visual storytelling and the digital element in it? So I'm looking forward to that.
And Bente, because your project is about algorithms, do you feel that now, because of Corona, everything is going online, and this experience we were supposed to be in a studio with an audience and all that, now we're doing exclusively through this medium. Does that make your project actually more relevant in today's world? I mean, is the digital becoming maybe even more relevant than the photography?
Well, I think digital is like, how do you say it? A container begrip. I don't know the English word right now, but it's something that describes a lot of things, and digital doesn't necessarily mean online. Because in the case of my work, if I present it online, it's still documentation. It's not a work that lives online or something. So, I think artists, and especially young artists now, should take into account how they can present their work online in a good way, that it's not just a documentation. But I think it doesn't mean that every work we make right now should be an online work per se. Does that make any sense?
Yeah,
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And Dagmar, I mean, when you talk about Taoism, I mean, it's really about, it's a completely different approach to the world as what we just heard. Can you talk a little bit about your project and what you hope to achieve with that project? What is the story that you're trying to tell?
Yeah, well, it's about Taoism, but it's more about the way of thinking in Taoism, so not the philosophy or the spiritual side, or it's just like a different mindset, because it's the complete opposite of how we are living in our current days, or like the digital age we just discussed. And sometimes it's easy to have some kind of leidraad, something to look at, to guide you through how you can make that switch in your thinking. And I think Taoism can come in helpful in that way. So it's not really about Taoism, it's just about...
Right. Something went wrong in the connection there. But Fleur,
Yes.
Looking at these two projects and defining your role as a festival to help and bring also these kind of maybe not directly photography related projects forward, what do you think is the future for young makers who come out of school? I mean, the economic situation is not obvious. Where do you see that going?
I think you asked two different questions about like the financial certainty or uncertainty of young photographers, which I come to back later. But that question of what is the role of festivals or project spaces or museums when it comes to showing young artists' work, knowing that we are moving towards a more interdisciplinary approach of visual storytelling, I think we are confronted with a reality that we should embrace, in the way that we should look more into the possibilities of how to integrate those more interdisciplinary, multifaceted projects, to how to position them within a fairly traditional festival as Breda Photo is until now. So I think that's a nice challenge for us. Also, like as a festival, we'll also have to try to keep renewing ourselves. And I think this is one of the most challenging things for the upcoming curatorial team, for the upcoming editions, like how to integrate those type of projects. Then to come to the question of what our role is also in setting off a career or hosting or supporting a career of young artists. I think what is important for us is that we guide the students, that we help them think through the steps before the work is actually shown. So in the process of what decisions do you make according to the budget that you have, like help them out to just learn on how to make those decisions. But also, I think the festival, since we have so many guest curators coming by and other festival directors coming from all different, also like from visual arts, photography, film. I think what we can offer is that visibility. And when it comes to career, it's always important for younger artists, but also for mid-career artists to actually have the moment of visibility and show your work. So I think that is 7 weeks of visibility at Breda Photo or any other festival or in a museum is very important. Yeah. So I would always try to motivate artists to, although it's maybe scary to show your work at such a vast audience, take that step.
It's also kind of the point.
It's also the point, exactly.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And Dagmar, how I mean, now that you've graduated and you've had the graduation exhibition, of course, as a first project, not as a first project, as a big project to reach out to an audience, where do you see your work and your career going from here? Do you have an idea about where you want to go?
Yeah, I do have an idea, but for now that's just out of photography actually. So for now it's into clothes, out of photography, so I can reflect more on the medium of photography itself and how it should be implemented into the world of art. And I think I'm just going to take a step back to see what kind of maker I am before I'm actually going out into the world.
So it's time to, after school, it's time to reflect before moving forward. Does that work for you the same way, Bente?
Yeah, I think so. And in a kind of a literal sense, I moved also after my graduation, very far away from school, but later about that more.
Yeah. You'll be part of the next conversation too.
Yeah, exactly. I don't want to spill it all right now. But yeah, after graduation, I really had the feeling of I need to take some rest now from art school and doing all these projects. And but to be honest, in the last month, I started to feel excited again about starting new projects. So yeah, I think I will just continue with what I'm doing now. And I actually did an internship during my graduation, which is now work. So yeah, I don't really have
from which to work from then.
Yeah, true. I don't really have like this clear vision. This is where I want to be in 5 years. But yeah, I just kind of go with the flow right now.
Right, right. Great. Yeah. Fleur, Breda Photo is going towards the end of its the festival. I mean, it's just a few more weeks left. What is a message that you, as a festival, you want to give to young photographers who might not be so clear as to where their career is going?
I would advise you to take your time to really embrace the time of reflection and to see like what is it content-wise that you want to chase, what is keeping you interested, what is fascinating for you, and then try to reach out again to curators, other artists, talk to them, to really keep your artistic practice going and to stay a little bit visible, because we are living in a network society, so it's important that you stay present. Also, one of the things that we offer as Breda Photo, but many festivals do that, that's the portfolio review moment. And I think that's always a very good moment to test out your ideas again with experts from the field, other photographers, museum directors. It's a fascinating moment before you actually start to reach out to the wider audience to really, so I would definitely advise you to, at the moment that you're ready for it, that you feel confident enough about your project, pitch it, try to talk with people about it during portfolio reviews, and then, go for it. And now,
Yeah. Well, that's very clear advice for you here, Dagmar and Bente, but I think for all students out there listening in on this conversation. Thank you, Bente, thank you, Dagmar, and thank you, Fleur, for this conversation and allowing us to be part of it. But Bente, we'll see you in a little bit after 2 more film teasers that we're going to look at. Service à la Russe by Bente Ummels, about family relations, told through an over-the-top family dinner. And Blessed Be, a film of a woman called Pia about how we perceive and create our own realities. A film by Maxime Lambers. These 2 films will also be part of tomorrow's premiere viewing that starts, don't forget, 1 p.m. CET online here at this channel, nowshow.nl. Don't miss out. Be ready for that tomorrow. Take it away.
Lieve mensen, ik wil toosten. Dat we er met elkaar maar een hele mooie avond van mogen maken. Proost.
Bart en ik zijn vorige week nog teruggekomen van een vakantie in Dubai.
Vakantie? Zakenreis, hè? Snoest was een zakenreis. Ja. Was het moeilijk om mij op zaken te kunnen concentreren.
Ik fotografeer. En ik haat het woord hobby.
Oké, excuses.
Oh nee, geen probleem. Jij zegt tenminste sorry.
Schat, je rijdt vanavond, oké?
Ja, dag. Vorige keer moest ik ook al rijden.
Hey, het is toch geen probleem om mij in deze pracht van een bak naar huis te mogen rijden, lieve.
Oh, godverdomme! Hey.
Sorry, pa. Sorry.
Welcome back, and for our last talk we invite 3 photographers to join us online from Zeeland. Bente de Bruin, whom we just saw, but also Zoe Sluis and Joy van Heijnen. All three of them graduated in the class of 2020, but they're here to discuss their initiative, The Newcomers, in Dutch, The Nieuwkomers, a collective that moved in together in the province of Zeeland. Welcome, ladies, to this webinar, to this show. Zoe, to start with you, where did this idea come from?
Well, we started looking for a place to live, the 3 of us together, in the center of Rotterdam, which turned out to be very expensive. So we were thinking, how would that look? What would that look like if we would live in Rotterdam? It would, we need a lot of money. We'd have to work 5 days a week, and there wouldn't be enough time for us to do what we actually want to do, which is create stuff. So I think we already had the dream of maybe someday when we were older and have money to live on a farm and have a creative collective. And I think it was your mom who said, well, why don't you just start looking now? And especially with Corona, everything's different and weird. And yeah, we started looking at alternative places to live.
So from the city of Rotterdam, you moved to the province of Zeeland. That's quite a big step to take. I mean, also in your mind, I would think. Joy, what are you doing to develop this? To develop your art? Are you doing this, or is it to develop your art, or is it to develop a new way of life?
Actually, more the second one, I think.
To develop a new way of life. What does that entail?
Because we don't have to earn a lot of money now because it's an anti-squatting home, so it's super cheap, and that gives us a lot of space. So I think a lot of space and a lot of time. So to develop a different way of life, so we can, for instance, use a lot of our time to grow our own food, to build, different things we need. We don't have to buy everything now because we have the time. So,
and the space also.
And the space.
Wow.
So I think those two things are the most important differences that we have now.
Right.
Yeah, space and time.
And time. Time is important here. Bente, you plan to make book publications, I think, as part of the common experience. Why book publications?
Well, as opposed to like the digital and my artistic practice, we actually wanted to make something that you can, that is, how do you say it?
Physical.
Physical, yeah.
Maybe even analog.
Yeah, analog. And after my graduation, I was so done with the digital, to be honest. So I really wanted to make something physical that I can hold and that I can keep with me and that I can send to others. Because on our publication, there's one. Yeah, you can grab it. Just show it.
There's the publication.
Yeah, like this. I don't know if you see it. There's one side.
It's like a postcard.
And I don't know. I really like this idea of when you finished reading it, you can send it to another person who might be interested as well. So that's why we choose to do physical publications.
And it feels more personal to receive it and hold it and.
Okay, a bit of a critical question maybe, but do you do this for your own artistic expression or do you do it to reach an audience? What's the most important reason to create books?
Well, actually, I think we all really enjoyed the process of making this because we actually collaborated with friends on this. Rick van der Klooster, who's a photographer, he shot the portrait of the three of us, and Lindy Hengst, who also graduated this year from St. John's, did the graphic design. So we really wanted to make a product that is physical, that you can keep for a longer period of time. And that's a collab. It's a collaboration. Different artists, always different artists. So the next time we are going to ask a different graphic designer as well.
Right.
Yeah.
And who do you want to reach with these book publications? What is your ideal audience or person to interact with the work?
Well, I think people that are open for alternatives, because a lot of times when I speak to people about that I don't really like the system we're in right now, they immediately ask me the question, okay, come up with a better alternative. But that's not what this project is about. It's about raising questions and attempting to create alternatives.
And this is also why we want to collaborate with as many other young artists or philosophers or whatever you are, to really hear stories of different sides to what it would look like to have a different world or an alternative to the way that we're living now.
So to summarize, who do we want to reach? People that are open that in the first place for new alternatives and
open to the discussion of breaking up this idea.
Yeah.
Wow. Fleur, I mean, what do you think, looking from your professional background, not so much Breda Photo, but the broader professional background, what do you think is the importance or the relevance of an artist initiative as this?
Well, I think it's in my earlier work, I was coordinator of the studio program for Office for Contemporary Art in Norway, and being also in the periphery, like you guys are in Zealand, the periphery and the calmness that that is automatically there creates the time to reflect again, like you are doing, and researching into new potential connections between different fields of interest. And I think for artists, or what I've experienced from the years that I worked with artists in residence, was that it was essential for their practice in the future to be able to read, think out loud, test out things in a safe space. And what I find very interesting in your initiative is that you're living there, the three of you, but you're always inviting other people in. And I think that is the strength that you have within the concept that you're living out now, to invite them in to step out the hectic period or society of Rotterdam or whatever big city or bigger cities they're in, go to the periphery and be together and challenge each other. And I think that is something that is absolutely worthwhile. It's a little bit the same what you have in your studio. I assume that it's a calm, safe space to try things out. But being in a residency as a collective and inviting other people in is very, very fascinating and interesting and inspiring. Yeah.
So, sounds like a lot of very good things happening there, but there must be a lot of challenges too, I imagine. I mean, what are the challenges you face? I mean, you come into this place, you have to, I don't know, make your own food, become partly a farmer. What are the main challenges that you're running into right now, being in the position that you're in?
Maybe as young artists graduating, I think it's for everyone, it's quite hard to find a job, and we are lucky that we don't have to earn that much money. But especially where we live, there's not a lot of offers for jobs, especially not in the cultural section. So I think that was the first slight struggle that we had. But I think we all found something to earn a little bit of money with. So we're good on that. And I think it's quite interesting to live in a place where they're quite religious. They think quite differently to how we do. And some might see that as a struggle or as a challenge, but I think it's quite interesting. It's an interesting place to live in where people around you don't necessarily think the way that we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mark, can I ask him something?
Sure,
because you had a good point, like who's your audience? For who are you doing this? So I was wondering also, like, I can imagine that one of the challenges that you're facing is to how to reach out to your potential reader of the publication or your potential guest. Or so what are your plans for that? How do you try to make yourself visible?
We've had such a good response from students that we knew from our art academy, and then friends of theirs already, that we have a list of people that want to come over and have a chat with us, which is really nice. We've been doing these dinners where we invite someone over, and we don't just do this with young people, but we try to do this with established artists as well. We try to invite them over, we cook them a meal from whatever the garden has to offer at that moment, and then we put down a piece of paper and we write down everything that we think of at the moment. And it's lovely to invite people over and chat. We've had such a great response from everyone that we already have a list of people that want to come over. So up till now, it hasn't been a problem.
do you aim to be an example for others?
In what way do you mean?
In what way? I mean, is this something you want? Are you trying to create a model that other people can follow, or do you want to set an example to maybe to the community where you now live? That you can do that. It's possible to do things in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. It's
we also had a lot of inspiration sources. Like, of course, there are lots of sort of the same models already, but. So I think, of course, we want to have more of this.
But what's different with us is that we have this piece of land. We don't have it. We don't own it. But I mean, we live in such a rich area, but we don't have any money. That's something different. So we're trying to establish something that exists already, but without money necessarily.
Right.
So, yeah.
Great.
And can I ask them one more question, Mark? Like, so are you trying to reach out to your neighbors? And because I can imagine that would be also the first audience that you have nearby. So have you tried to talk to them already and invite them over for an inspirational evening?
Well, definitely. We have a great neighbor next to us. He's born in this street and he still lives there. He's 83. And he's really nice, and it's very different. He has a different worldview because he's only lived in this street
Yeah.
his whole life. So we've already talked about inviting him over for such a dinner, or maybe even do a podcast with him or something, because it's a very interesting
Different view. Yeah, he has to say a lot. He
really likes
talking.
Sounds amazing. I'm looking forward to the end result and to hear the podcast or read about it in your publications. It was great to hear. Yeah.
So a lot of stories are being brewed there in Zeeland by the newcomers. Thank you, Bente de Bruin, Zoe Sluis and Joy van Heijnen. And thank you, Fleur, for joining in this conversation. Thank you very much, guys. And that concludes this webinar live from the St. Joost Academy here in Breda. Remember, tomorrow, 1 p.m. at nowshow.nl, the premiere of all the films from this year's class. Coming Sunday at the Breda Photo Digital channel, there's an artist talk about what is different, about maybe gender issues, who knows. Thank you very much for being part of this. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope to see you next time. And for now, have a nice evening. Take care of yourselves. Bye-bye.